Here in the Preservation and Conservation Department, we care and maintain our special collections material. So that can range from anything from very early Irish manuscripts right up through to 19th century publishers' bindings. But our main duty of care is looking after the long room collections. And the long room collections are around 250,000 printed books. And they are from the very first printed books right up through to books that were mass-produced in the 19th century. Quite a range of materials and different types of bookbinding structures. Typically what we find in the long room is books that are covered in calfskin leather. So for instance, material like this, so it's covered in toned calfskin leather, and the structures, it's a type-back structure with raised bands, and we find lots and lots of material like this in the long room. What we find is that the Fagel collection is quite different in visual appearance to our typical long room books. Within that collection, a lot of those books are actually bound in parchment. It presents different and unique challenges for the conservators in the conservation department. Parchment it's a very hygroscopic material, which means that it's very reactive to changes in the environment. And so we find a very typical sort of damage. And the damage is where we find that the parchment on the spine, because it's exposed to the atmosphere in the room, it becomes very fractured and ruptures. Our idea is that we're stabilizing the material so it can function as a book again.
Currently, I'm working on this book, which was printed in St. Petersburg in 1720. And what's unusual about it, it's its size, because it's quite thick. And that is due to the fact that it was printed in parallel Dutch and Russian text. Now, because of the size, you can see that it has damage on the spine, and the original spine piece was starting to crack as well, right in the middle. And that it's because while opening it, you put stress on the sewing and the sewing supports. And what I'm doing is I'm cleaning the spine in order to remove all the old lining and assess if the sewing and the sewing supports are in good condition, or if it will be necessary to reinforce the spine and the book. Once the conservation treatment is done, all this material will be quite delicate and it will need to be carefully handled. So that's why, in a way, the digitization program is so important.